out of my lobby. This place isn't for your kind." The words didn't slip out by accident. They were delivered like a corporate policy, loud, certain, and rehearsed. Marcus Thorne, the manager of the Sterling Zenith Hotel in downtown Chicago, stood behind the marble front desk with his arms crossed and pure, unfiltered judgment written all over his face. He wasn't whispering. He wasn't hiding his disdain. He said it so the entire lobby could hear. He looked right at me, a black woman in plain clothes, and decided right then and there that I didn't belong. What he didn't know was that in exactly 9 minutes, the woman standing in front of him was going to fire him and every single member of his team right there in the very lobby where he had just tried to destroy my dignity. Before I tell you how this ended, I need you to understand how it started. I walked through the glass revolving doors of the Sterling Zenith alone. No assistant, no designer purse, no flashy brand labels that scream for attention. Just a black t-shirt, fitted jeans, and calm eyes that had seen this exact scenario play out a dozen times before. I took slow, confident steps across the polished floor. My sneakers barely made a sound, but my presence seemed to offend the very air in the room. I approached the front desk. Behind it stood Marcus, 48 years old, flanked by 2 clerks. Becky, with a tight ponytail and a tighter smile, and Jard, arms folded, eyes already narrowed in suspicion. None of them greeted me. None of them smiled. They just looked me up and down like a stain on a silk sheet. "I have a reservation," I said, keeping my voice even. "Penthouse suite. The name is King." Marcus squinted at me like he had misheard. He actually leaned over the counter, invading my personal space, and let out a short, sharp laugh. "That is a very high-tier room," he said, his voice dripping with mock politeness that barely concealed the venom underneath. "Are you sure you booked the right hotel? Maybe you're looking for the Motel 6 blocks down. They take cash. We don't." I didn't answer the insult. I wasn't there to debate my worth with a man whose tie cost less than my lunch. I calmly slid my ID and my matte black credit card across the cold marble counter. Marcus picked them up with 2 fingers, holding the card by the very edge like it might be contagious. He looked at the card, then at me, then back at the card with a dramatic sneer. "Strange," he muttered, loud enough for the guests in the lounge to hear. "This looks suspicious. You know, people like you try this all the time. You find a fancy card, you print a fake name, and you hope we won't check. It's pathetic, really." Becky pressed a button on the desk, and her voice rang out over the intercom, sharp and accusing. "Security, we may have an unauthorized guest trying to access one of our premium suites, possibly fraudulent. Stand by." My expression didn't change. My voice stayed low. "I am not here for trouble. I am here for my room. Run the card." Jard scoffed from the side. He stepped forward, puffing his chest out. "Look at you," he said, looking at my sneakers. "You look cheap. You look poor. You look like you crawled out of the gutter and got lost on your way to the shelter. You don't belong near people like our guests. Look at the lobby. Look at the chandeliers. Then look at yourself. It's embarrassing." From across the room, I saw a phone go up. Chloe, a travel blogger I recognized from social media, whispered to her friend Liam. "I'm filming this," she said. "This is being posted. People need to see this." Liam started live streaming immediately. "We are at the Sterling Zenith," he narrated to his phone, "and we are watching something ugly happen in real time." Maya, the young concierge standing off to the side, glanced up from her desk. Her eyes met mine. Something passed between us. Silent, swift recognition. Maybe concern, maybe fear. Maya took a step forward, opening her mouth to speak, but Marcus cut her off with a glance that could cut glass. "She doesn't belong here," he snapped at Maya. "Stay in your lane or you're out too." I took out my phone and sent a silent tap. On the other end, in a corporate office 3 blocks away, my executive assistant Sarah picked up immediately. "It is happening," I said quietly. Sarah didn't hesitate. "The system is ready." Marcus still held my card, flipping it over and over like he was waiting for it to confess a crime. "You know," he said, his voice booming now, fueled by his own delusion of superiority. "We have seen this scam before. Your kind comes in, claims to have bookings, flashes a high-limit card, and disappears the second we call the bank. Well, not this time." He turned to Jard and handed him the card. "Lock it up." Jard took it eagerly, a nasty grin spreading across his face. He walked to a small cabinet behind the desk, opened a drawer, and revealed a brushed steel safe. With exaggerated care, purely for the audience he knew he had, he placed my card inside and slammed the heavy door shut. "You are done here," he said with a smile. Chloe, filming from the lounge, exclaimed, "They just took her card." Liam stepped closer with his phone. "That is theft. That is not policy." I didn't move. My voice stayed calm, but the temperature in the room dropped. You are going to regret this. Marcus leaned forward, his face twisting into a sneer. Your reservation is cancelled. We don't tolerate deception. You are holding up real guests. He gestured to a businessman standing behind me. Look at him. That is a guest. You are a distraction. I didn't flinch. You mean the guests watching this right now? I gestured toward Chloe and Liam, who were still filming. Other guests had stopped what they were doing. Some were staring, some were whispering, some were clearly uncomfortable. Maya looked on, her jaw tight. Becky stepped in, trying to mimic Marcus's arrogance. You need to leave now. You look homeless. Seriously, look at your hair. It's unkempt. Did your mother never teach you how to present yourself, or was she too busy working the corners to raise you right? The insult to my family hit a nerve, but I locked it down. I held her gaze. Are you sure you want to finish that sentence? Becky's tone dripped with false confidence. Positive, or we will call the authorities. Your face tells your worth, honey, and your worth is 0. Marcus smirked. Go ahead, make a scene. It won't end well for you. People like you always think the world owes them something. You think because you exist, you deserve a seat at the table. You don't. You deserve the service entrance. Maya finally stepped forward, unable to stay silent. She is right. I saw her name in our system this morning. Her reservation is valid. It's marked as VIP. Marcus turned to her sharply, his face turning a dangerous shade of red. One more word, Maya, and you are gone too. You want to defend this trash? You can leave with her. I reached for my phone again. This time my voice was louder. Sarah, log this moment. Lock in the video timestamps. Sarah's voice came through my earpiece clearly. Logged. Systems ready. Do you want Director Vane on standby? Give me 1 more minute, I replied. Liam leaned toward the front desk, pointing his phone camera to the card visible through the safe's glass window. It says A. King, VIP. It's real. She is real. Marcus scoffed, waving a hand dismissively. Anyone can make a fake card. People like her are experts at forgery. It's probably the only skill she has. I interrupted him. Finish that sentence. Go on, people like me. But he didn't. The words died in his throat as he noticed the growing circle of eyes around them. I stepped forward, calm, controlled, but every syllable I spoke carried the weight of a sledgehammer. You have just made the worst mistake of your professional life. Marcus smiled like he still held power, completely delusional in his arrogance. You think so? Look at you. You're small. You're nothing. I run this hotel. I run this world. You're just a bug on my windshield. I stared into him. No, I know so. And as the tension gripped the lobby like a tightening noose, no one, not Marcus, not Becky, not Jard, had any idea who I truly was, but they were about to find out. Jard's voice rang out across the lobby with forced authority, holding up the small silver key to the safe like it was a trophy. This card is now company property, he declared, and until the bank verifies it, you are not getting it back. He grinned, smug, performative, sure of himself. Behind him, the safe door clicked shut with a cold finality, but Jard didn't see the storm he had just invited. I stood there unwavering. My face was unreadable, my silence more commanding than any outburst. Marcus leaned in again, eyes flicking toward the slowly growing crowd. You are wasting everyone's time, he said. Walk out now, or we will make that choice for you. You don't want us to drag you out. It would be ugly. Considering your size, you look heavy. It might take 2 guards. That was when Becky, emboldened by the backing of her manager and Jard's theatrics, stepped out from behind the desk. She straightened her blazer and reached for my arm. You have been warned. It is time for you to leave. The moment her hand made contact with my bicep, the entire atmosphere in the lobby shifted. Gasps erupted. Chloe's phone caught the movement instantly. She just grabbed her. She shouted, already uploading the clip with a simple caption, "This is happening live at the Sterling Zenith." Liam's live stream now had over 100 watchers, most of them flooding the chat with shock and disbelief. Maya stepped forward, her voice shaking with restrained outrage. "You cannot put your hands on a guest," she yelled. "Her reservation is valid." Becky spun around, eyes flashing. "You stay out of this if you want your job." But Maya didn't back down. She looked at me, seeing that I still hadn't moved an inch, and took a small step closer to me. "I won't lie for you," she said to Marcus. That was the exact moment Marcus dropped all pretense. "She is trying to scam us," he hissed. "People like her always think they can play the system. They are lazy. They are thieves." It's genetic. His tone was lower now, more venomous, but the words reached the ears of at least 3 guests standing nearby. One of them, a grey-haired woman holding her phone just a little higher, said to no one in particular, "I can't believe what I am hearing." Another, a man in a navy suit, leaned toward Liam's stream and said, "You getting all this?" Liam nodded, "All of it." In the center of this storm, I stood perfectly still. I brought my phone back to my ear. "Sarah," I said calmly, "escalate the internal system, begin audit documentation. I want every word logged from this point forward." On the other end, Sarah's voice was crisp, understood, time-stamped and recorded. Director Vane is listening in. As I said it, Jard leaned in over the desk and shouted, loud enough to be heard by the far wall, "You are a fraud, lady. You think a card gets you in here? Go back to the ghetto where you belong." A chorus of murmurs rose from the lobby. Maya was now fully out from behind the concierge podium, standing shoulder to shoulder with me. "I have worked here for 3 years," she said, her voice firm, "and I have seen this pattern before. Every time a guest like her walks in, alone, confident, dressed down, you treat them like criminals." Marcus's eyes narrowed, "And every time someone questions it, they get fired." Maya continued, "You say it is policy, but it's not. It is you are the policy." Backstory seeped into my mind. I was 16, dressed in my Sunday clothes, waiting in a hotel lobby in Charlotte. My parents were late. A clerk walked up to me and said, "This area is for guests only." I tried to explain, but the woman didn't listen. She escorted me to the sidewalk like a loiterer. The shame stayed in my bones for years. It didn't make me small. It made me sharp. It made me build. Marcus wasn't finished. He turned toward Maya. "Enough. I want her out now, or I will have security escort both of you." Becky, who had been silent since Chloe started filming again, added quickly, "She refused to provide valid ID. This is a breach. I am reporting it." But the tension was already turning against them. Liam, still filming, turned the camera toward his own face. "Just to be clear," he said, "we are watching a guest be harassed by hotel staff after providing her name, card, and ID, and now they are physically trying to remove her. This is not just bad service. This is disgusting." I turned to Jard, my voice no louder than before. "Return my card, now." Jard leaned over the counter, smirking. "Or what?" My eyes didn't move. "Or you will be locked out of the Zenith system for life. No employment, no references, no appeal." Becky snorted, "You don't speak for Zenith." But Maya spoke up immediately. "She does." Marcus's voice snapped like a whip. "You are out of line, Maya. You don't even know who she is." Chloe interjected from the side. "Oh, she does. We all do." She turned the camera back to me. "Look at how she is standing. Look at how calm she is. That is not someone begging for service. That is someone letting you dig your own grave." My voice stayed steady. "Jard, one last chance." Jard looked unsure for the first time. Marcus tried to salvage the moment. "This isn't about anything personal. It is about protocol." But his words came too late. Chloe and Liam's videos were already spreading, and guests were whispering about what they had just seen. One man said, "I have stayed here for years. Never again." A young woman holding a carry-on suitcase turned to Maya and asked, "Is she really who I think she is?" Maya didn't answer, but her silence said enough. Then the twist that shifted the lobby's temperature completely. Maya stepped forward, voice louder now. "This isn't the first time. Marcus ignores complaints like this constantly. He has been warned. I logged 3 of them last month, 2 from solo women of color, all dismissed." Marcus's face flushed red. "That is a lie." Liam swung the camera toward him. "You sure?" I looked around slowly. Every phone was raised now, every guest paying attention. I said to no one in particular, but loud enough for every person to hear, "Your time running this place unchecked is over." Marcus tried one more desperate move. "Fine, if you won't leave, I will call the cops myself." I smiled, "Please do." And for a moment, Marcus hesitated, because for the first time he saw something in my face that unsettled him. Not fear, not uncertainty, power, controlled, silent, and far beyond his reach. Guests began to move subtly but deliberately, stepping between me and the front desk. They didn't know my name yet, but they knew enough. One woman rolled her suitcase directly into Becky's path. Another man pulled his phone charger from the desk outlet and stood beside Maya. Liam turned his phone around, capturing the growing crowd. "They are protecting her now," he said into the stream. I stood in the center, took a single step forward, and said one sentence. This lobby belongs to me. The words didn't shout. They didn't need to. Jard's smirk faltered. Becky looked down. Marcus blinked. And in that split-second silence, the lobby, once hostile, began to turn. Throw her out now. Marcus's voice cracked across the marble lobby like a gavel desperate to regain control that had already slipped through his fingers. The lobby wasn't quiet anymore. Phones were raised. Whispers were now open protests. But Marcus, red-faced and trembling with authority he no longer truly held, pressed forward anyway. She is trespassing. She is a liar, he bellowed. He turned toward the intercom and slammed his hand down on the button. Jard's voice crackled across the entire lobby's speaker system to all staff. Unauthorized individual in the lobby, do not engage. Repeat, do not engage with this guest. Fraud alert. The moment the announcement ended, the silence that followed was heavier than the words themselves. I didn't flinch, but the guests did. Chloe shouted from the corner, she is not a fraud. We are recording everything. Her voice trembled, not with fear but with fury. Liam's live stream view count had jumped past 2,000. Comments rolled in like waves. That is theft. Unreal. How is this happening in a luxury hotel? A mother with her teenage daughter backed away from the check-in line, whispering, they are going to regret this. Meanwhile, Becky, shaken but still following Marcus's lead, grabbed my arm again and yanked me toward the exit. Let's go. You are embarrassing yourself. She hissed through clenched teeth. You look like a fool. That was when Maya stepped between us. Physically, the youngest staff member in the room, the only one to speak up consistently, stood shoulder to shoulder with me. Don't touch her again, she said, loud and clear. Becky froze. You will be fired, she spat. Maya didn't back down, then fire me, she snapped, but you are not putting your hands on her. Marcus surged forward, his frustration boiling over. Do you even know who she is? He barked at Maya. She is a fraud, look at her. He gestured at my t-shirt, my jeans, my sneakers, like it all proved something. People who stay in penthouse suites don't look like that. They don't look like this. My voice was quiet, measured. You keep saying that word, fraud, like it will make your mistake disappear. I took one small step forward. The distance between us closed like a noose tightening around Marcus's narrative. At 29, I had flown into Los Angeles for a conference. I had been wearing a navy pantsuit, professional but not extravagant. The man behind the desk had looked at my ID, then at me, then again at the card. This cannot be you, he had said. We will need a second form of ID. I provided one, then another. But they still made me wait while verifying. 2 hours. Meanwhile, I watched 3 white men walk in and get suites without even showing ID. That night, I drafted the policy I would later implement in my own hotels. Zero tolerance for guest profiling. That moment lived in my bones. And now, so did this one. Get security. Marcus barked at Jard, who had stepped away from the desk and now hovered near the office hallway, uncertain. Call them in now. But Jard hesitated. His confidence had cracked, because in front of him stood not a woman begging for entry, but someone who knew something he didn't. And worse, guests were watching. Chloe's phone moved from face to face, capturing every twitch of guilt, every flinch of power. Liam, still live streaming, turned toward a guest standing nearby. Sir, what are you seeing here? The man replied, without hesitation. I see someone getting thrown out of a hotel she clearly belongs in. Marcus spun. That is slander. She hasn't proven anything. I calmly turned my phone toward the crowd. Would anyone like proof? Liam immediately called out, show them. But I didn't lift a badge or pull out a contract. Instead, I turned to Maya and asked softly, do you see my name in the reservation system? Maya nodded. Yes, it is under A. King, penthouse. Checked in remotely. Maya nodded again. Yes, marked as executive level override, owner level clearance. The lobby fell quiet. Marcus's eyes darted. That could have been faked. She could have hacked in. Chloe snapped. You really think someone walked in off the street, hacked your system, and brought 2,000 witnesses with them? Becky, suddenly pale, looked down at the floor. Jard stepped forward hesitantly. I locked the card in the safe under your instruction, Marcus. What if we are wrong? I turned toward him. You were told to steal from me. That is what you did. But you had a choice. Jard's mouth opened, then shut again. Then the crowd shifted. A guest, an older woman with white hair and a floral scarf, moved forward. She positioned herself between me and Becky and said simply, you are not laying a hand on her again. Another man joined, then a woman with a stroller. Within seconds, a loose half-circle had formed in front of me as if the guests themselves had drawn a boundary. Marcus stood behind the desk, suddenly looking much smaller than he had moments ago. I looked around at the human barrier that had risen without me asking. "This is what happens," I said softly, "when silence stops being an option." Liam turned his phone to the crowd. "They are standing with her now," he said into the camera, "and I don't think they are going anywhere." Marcus's desperation hit its peak. He shouted over the lobby noise, "You are all being manipulated. She is playing you." And then Jard, still holding the intercom mic, whispered something barely audible, but the whole lobby heard it as it echoed through the speakers. "She owns the place, doesn't she?" It hung in the air like smoke. Chloe slowly panned her phone toward my face. "Do you?" she asked, breathless. Maya stepped forward. "She does." Gasps rippled across the room. A man near the lounge chairs whispered, "Wait, this is her hotel." Becky turned to Marcus in horror. "You said she was lying." Marcus didn't speak. Liam looked into his lens. This is the moment everything changed. I stepped forward again, now past Maya, past the half-circle of guests, right up to the front desk where Marcus stood frozen. "You wanted me out," I said evenly. "You framed me. You called me a thief. You insulted my parents. You mocked my appearance. And you humiliated me in my own lobby." Marcus opened his mouth, but no words came out. From my phone, Sarah's voice came through loud and clear. "Amara, the board has authorized full incident response. Director Vane is ready. Do you want me to patch her through?" My eyes didn't leave Marcus's. "Yes, right now." I tapped the screen once, and Director Vane's voice, sharp and deliberate, came through the speaker. "Ms. King, everything is prepared. We are standing by for your authorization." I took a breath. "Terminate Marcus Thorne. Terminate Becky Hayes. Terminate Jard Patel. Immediate removal from the Zenith system. Freeze their access credentials and log today's incident for legal audit." A beat of silence confirmed. Director Vane said, "Processing now." And in that instant, Marcus's access badge buzzed red. So did Becky's, so did Jard. They were locked out live in front of every guest. No shouting, no theatrics, just justice. Quiet, complete, irreversible. Marcus Thorne's last shred of composure shattered the moment his access badge buzzed red. He stared at it, stunned, like it had betrayed him. Jard's face drained of color as his own badge blinked the same error, locking him out of the Zenith system in real time. Becky froze, lips parted in disbelief, still gripping the edge of the counter, as if hanging on would somehow keep her job from vanishing beneath her feet. But the lobby had already shifted. What once felt like a theater of dominance now pulsed with rebellion. Maya stood tall beside me, her jaw tight, her voice steady. "They have been removed," she said, loud enough for every guest to hear. "They don't speak for Zenith anymore." Marcus erupted. "This is illegal. You can't just... This isn't how hotels operate." He turned to Becky, desperate. "Call corporate. Get someone on the line now." But Becky's hands trembled as she checked her phone. Blocked. Zenith's internal system had shut down her staff login credentials. "I am locked out," she whispered, panic blooming across her face. "Everything is gone." Jard tried to step toward the safe to retrieve my card, but Maya raised her hand. "Stop right there," she commanded. "You are no longer authorized to handle guest property. Step away from the counter." Jard hesitated, then backed off slowly. And then the final push. Marcus, boiling in embarrassment, lashed out in the worst way possible. "Do you really think this circus makes you a leader?" He snarled at me. "You tricked your way in. You humiliated us in public. You will be sued for this." But his voice cracked just slightly when he said it. He was no longer in control, and he knew it. I tilted my head slightly. "You think leadership is about hiding things, Marcus?" I gestured to the guests around them. "Leadership is when people who have been ignored for too long finally speak up, and they are heard." Right on cue, a woman in the crowd raised her voice. "You never took my complaint seriously last spring," she said. "I emailed about an incident at check-in, and no one followed up. You were the one who responded and dismissed it." Marcus turned sharply to see her face, then looked away, recognizing her. Another voice. "I was charged twice for a room and got no response until I threatened legal action." A man chimed in from behind the lounge chairs. "I asked for an ADA-compliant room and was told none were available, then watched someone else check in and get one." One by one, guest voices became a chorus of past slights and they need accountability. Maya stepped forward again. I logged 3 complaints in the last 2 months alone about biased behavior at the front desk. They were dismissed every time. Marcus signed off on the dismissals himself. Becky backed up until she hit the wall, eyes darting between guests and her former co-workers. "Marcus, what is this?" she whispered. They are turning on us." Marcus's voice was now reduced to a whimper. "They are just angry. This will blow over." But it didn't, it grew. Liam panned his live stream across the lobby. "This is what a reckoning looks like," he said to his viewers. "They pushed too far, and now the guests are speaking." Then the moment that cemented it all. Chloe pulled up her post, now viral, hundreds of comments, dozens of reposts, screenshots of Jard's intercom announcement. The quote, "This card is now company property." Beneath it, a clip of Becky grabbing my arm, another of Marcus yelling, "People like her don't belong here." It was spreading like wildfire. "It is out there now," Chloe said aloud. "Everyone is seeing it." Marcus's desperation snapped again. He lunged toward the counter shouting, "Delete that. That is private property." But 2 guests stepped in his path. One of them, a quiet man with reading glasses and a messenger bag, simply said, "No, you don't get to silence this." The other guest, an elderly woman in a floral shawl, held out her phone. "Your face is already online. Might want to think twice before making another threat." That was the tipping point. Becky turned to me, her voice shaking. "I didn't know," she said. "I didn't mean for this to happen." I didn't nod. I didn't offer comfort. I simply said, "You helped make it happen. You watched it happen, and you laughed." And then Marcus did something no one expected. He turned to me, his voice ragged, shoulders slumping. "Why didn't you say who you were?" he asked. "You set us up." I blinked. "No, I gave you every opportunity to treat me like any other guest. That was the test, and you failed it, publicly." That was when Sarah's voice returned, now on speaker through my phone. "Amara, Director Vane is ready for your next steps." I looked across the lobby, scanning every stunned face. "Patch her through." Director Vane's voice filled the air. "Marcus Thorne, Becky Hayes, Jard Patel. Effective immediately, your employment with Horizon Hospitality Group is terminated. Your access has been revoked. Legal documentation is being prepared. Ms. King will supervise next steps directly. All guests please be advised. New leadership will be addressing your concerns momentarily." The weight of the words hit like thunder. Jard tried one last protest. "This is insane. We built this place." I cut him off. "You built nothing. You guarded the door and turned away the very people we claim to serve." I turned to Maya. "Please unlock the safe. Retrieve my card." Maya moved efficiently. She entered a new code, her own, and opened the safe. My black card lay untouched, pristine. Maya handed it back without a word, but her eyes were glassy with emotion. Then came the guests. One by one they began clapping, not loud, not chaotic, but purposeful, measured, as if acknowledging something overdue. I looked out over them and spoke, not with anger, but with certainty. This wasn't just about me. This was about every guest who was told their presence was a problem, about every complaint that disappeared, every policy used to humiliate instead of serve. That ends today. Marcus, Becky, and Jard stood behind the counter, stripped of title, of power, of audience, and yet the consequences had only begun. I turned back to my assistant through the phone. "Sarah, we are proceeding with full lobby-level reform. Prepare the statement and elevate Maya. She will be leading this location." "Yes, ma'am," Sarah replied. And with that I stepped forward, no longer mistaken, no longer anonymous. I had just taken my hotel back, one decision at a time. The moment the glass doors sealed shut behind Marcus, Becky, and Jard, the energy in the Sterling Zenith lobby shifted from confrontation to transformation. Guests stood quietly, absorbing what they had just witnessed. A top-down reckoning carried out not behind closed doors, but right in front of them, under crystal chandeliers, and beside gold-plated check-in counters. I turned to Maya, now elevated from concierge to acting manager, and gave a clear directive. "Initiate the reform plan. Start from the top." Maya, no longer hesitant, nodded, and immediately began shutting down the existing reservation system, disabling every user login associated with the terminated staff. "Done," she confirmed. I pulled out my phone. "Sarah, send out the internal alert. Notify regional compliance, diversity operations, and legal. I want a full audit of the Sterling Zenith's last 18 months. guest complaints, staff conduct records, and suppression logs. Sarah's reply was instant, already in motion. The media is circling, but your voice is front and center. Guests began to approach Maya, many speaking softly, unsure if it was appropriate to offer support. One woman whispered, "Thank you, I was scared to speak earlier." Maya smiled gently, "We are listening now." In the corner, Liam's live stream showed steady growth, now past 10,000 viewers. His caption had updated to, "CEO reclaims hotel, fires entire staff in lobby, real-time reform." Chloe approached me with her phone lowered. "Do you want me to keep posting?" she asked. I nodded, "Only truth, that is all I care about." Then I turned to the crowd. For years, this company promised inclusion, but policies mean nothing if bias is ignored behind the desk. Today, that changes. I looked to Maya again. "Reassign all staff training to begin within 72 hours. We will bring in an independent firm. Every employee, front desk, concierge, management will undergo recertification. No grandfather clauses, no excuses." As I spoke, Director Vane's voice came through on speaker once more. "We have approved your full reform plan. Local media is requesting a statement. Suspend front desk bookings temporarily," I replied. "Maya will manually handle VIP guests. Others will be redirected to our downtown partner location with a complimentary night." I turned to Maya. "You okay with that load?" Maya gave a single, steady nod. "More than okay." Around us, guests no longer looked like spectators, they looked like supporters. One man offered to help with luggage. A couple volunteered to pass out water bottles to waiting guests. From confrontation had grown cohesion. The lobby had become something different. Now, it was a headquarters. And then came the twist that hardened my calm into something sharper. A notification pinged on my screen, an internal flag from compliance. I opened it quietly, scanning the summary, my jaw set as I read. I lifted my eyes and said to no one in particular, "Marcus didn't act alone." The lobby paused again. Director Vane's voice returned in my earpiece, this time lower, urgent. "We have pulled the archived complaint records. Marcus submitted false summaries to regional headquarters. Complaints that were marked resolved were never investigated, and we found communications between him and former regional director Michael Turner." My voice dropped, colder now. "Turner retired 3 months ago. No one looked deeper because they said he was just old-fashioned." Sarah's voice came in. "Turns out he protected Marcus, and Becky too. There was a pattern." I closed my eyes for a moment, not to escape, but to steady myself. Then I opened them. "We are not just reforming this location. We are initiating a full company-wide review. Every flagged employee, every buried complaint, every fake resolution." I turned to Liam, who was still filming. "You can show this part. People need to know that rot starts from the root, and we are digging it out." The guests around me nodded. Some looked stunned, others relieved. One woman in her 70s whispered, "I have waited years to see someone in charge actually do something." Chloe turned to her stream. "We came for a vacation," she said, "but we witnessed a revolution." I glanced around the lobby. I didn't see walls and marble anymore. I saw a symbol of what hospitality could be and what it had failed to protect for far too long. This hotel was never broken because of its decor or design. It was broken because people were trained to smile at some guests and interrogate others. My eyes moved across the room. That era ends today, and the rebuilding began. 3 months later, the Sterling Zenith no longer resembled the place where I had been humiliated. A framed portrait of me now hung near the check-in desk, not for vanity, but for accountability. Beneath it, a plaque read, "This space belongs to every guest, no exceptions." Maya was now permanently appointed general manager. The reform I implemented rippled far beyond Chicago. We audited all 57 properties. Dozens of previously ignored complaints resurfaced. New protocols were enforced. As for the guests who had witnessed the incident that day, they received personal letters of thanks. Liam and Chloe were invited to speak at our internal leadership summit. But even as the company transformed, the past refused to stay buried. 1 week after the incident, I received a quiet message from a former hotel manager in Portland. He confessed that there was a quiet directive from regional leadership during Turner's era. They wanted certain guests treated as non-priority if they didn't match the profile. It wasn't on paper, but they all knew. I didn't respond with anger. I thanked him for the truth, but that single admission revealed the final twist. The scandal had never been about one man abusing his power. It was about a system that had quietly enabled it. We launched Horizon Forward, a diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative focused on measurable outcomes. And at the end of the inaugural summit, I said the words that guests, staff, and survivors of silent discrimination would never forget. Hospitality doesn't begin with the smile you give. It begins with the respect you assume. The audience rose to their feet, not because a CEO had spoken, but because a woman once pushed toward the exit had turned around and opened the door for everyone else.